again, we got to get away from this ortho attitude, I call it, where every bug is bad and we ought to try to kill it. There are a lot of good things out there, and it's like citrus. They get the caterpillar that obviously looks kind of like bird droppings. Is exactly what that looks like. But that makes them swallowtail butterfly, the big giant swallowtail butterfly that's so gorgeous. Everybody knows monarchs. Their larvae feed on this. So yeah, don't panic when you see, you know, a few insects around. Now there are a few other things that get insects you may want to control. The cannas, they will get a caterpillar on them called leaf rolling caterpillars that are damaging. And again, you can control those very, very easily with non-toxic sprays like your BT. But we'll talk about all those as we talk about individual plants. Any other? Well, yes, ma'am. On
my butterfly weed, I had gotten those orange beetles that look like a ladybug, but they're orange. And it has literally stripped it in years past before I even knew it was on there.
That is probably something that they call a milkweed bug. Okay. And if you see those, two things to do. The old Chinese, you know, the footprint of the gardener is the best insecticide. I tend to use the thumb and forefinger method, but if you want to get them, you can always put out a little diatomaceous earth or something like that. That's not going to be too bad.
Or just spray it with a
or just spray it with a very limited spray of even orange oil or something simple like that. Yeah, that little puff thing will work real well, real well. Other questions about general preparation for perennials? Again, probably most important thing is plan your perennial beds carefully and give things enough room, and remember what gets tall and what stays shorter, and because again, you don't want to have to be digging these things up and moving them around. And some of them, you know, this little plant's only going to get about 10-12 inches tall. Great candidate for the front. This guy is going to get about 3 feet tall. Great candidate for the mid-range. This guy's going to get about 15 feet tall, so they could go toward the back. But we've given you a list here that has some pretty good general information on it about a lot of the perennials.
In terms of the ground preparation, is it you like to put full compost or native soil?
A lot of compost. A lot of compost and some fertilizer. And I can't think of any plant that wouldn't like that combination.
Yeah, I wonder if they're going to get spoiled, or okay, you want to go into the...
Well, you want to spoil them a little bit. But you know, the thing about compost is, as long as you're staying on an organic program, you put your compost in the upper few inches of soil. But as the compost puts more and more microbial life into the soil, it softens and improves the soil deeper and deeper and deeper. So the compost is one of those things that sort of gives you instant results, plus it gives you long-term results. So it's not just a matter of making it so good the roots don't want to go anywhere else. Now, obviously it doesn't dissolve limestone, but at least not, you know, in a reasonable period of time. But it will improve the soil to where the roots will spread even further. But what I want to do is really just go through, in times past I've just gone down the list, but I thought today I would just pick a few of the things that people really should grow more of, and we can stay here for 8 hours talking about these things. But what I want to talk about are just a few of these favorites, and then if you want to go through anything else on that list, we'll be more than happy to do so. And I'm not going to do these in any particular order, but I want to start with one that I think is one of the most underused plants anywhere. And this little plant is called erigeron. It is happy in the winter, it is happy in the summer, it blooms. Now it is pretty much a full sun plant. There's almost no such thing as too much sun. If it stays a little too wet, it doesn't seem to be bothered. If it gets a little too dry, it doesn't seem to be bothered. And it just flowers all the time. I don't even know if it's on the list.
Yes, it is. Erigeron.
E-R-I. Yeah, E-R-I. It's toward the bottom of the first page. Why don't you grab one right there if you have any notes? I'll keep this one up here. But
is there different colors in that, or it's all
the erigerons, to date, the only ones we see are white. But who knows? Once people realize how good it is, maybe the breeders will find a way to get us some different colors in it. But if you're looking for a virtually foolproof ground cover, I don't even think the deer will eat this, and that should perk up a few ears. But Roberta's had it in her white garden out in front of her house for 6 or 8 years now, and I get called in to thin it out every now and then because it gets so robust. But for just a neat little plant that has flowers all the time, a ridgeron is something that I want to be certain that everybody knows about.
It says ground cover, but you could use it in a hanging basket.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Okay.
Use it in a hanging basket. Use it in a pot to grow and spill over the edge.
That'd be pretty.
There may be some other things that have maybe more flowers on it, but for, you know, for general use, you can use that a lot of different ways. This has become, again, one of my favorite perennials, and this is the old-fashioned plant called Queen's Crown. But it's not so old-fashioned as it once was. It's one of these things that has been selected and improved a great deal. I guess I ought to be checking this list to be sure they're on here.
It is on there.
Yeah, it's there.
Queen's Crown or Antigonon, also known as coral vine, also known as Rosa montana, goes by a lot of different things. But the older varieties were light pink, and they didn't start blooming until the end of the summer, and then they bloomed up until freezing weather. The newer varieties, or the newer ones that you'll see offered for sale, start blooming many times as early as June. The colors may range from light pink all the way through to almost a magenta color, certainly is darker than this salvia. And there's a pure white form as well, and they will flower right up until freezing weather and just make huge, huge masses of flowers. Individually, the blooms are quite small, but they literally, every plant will produce 10,000 flowers at a time. They're very attractive to butterflies, they're very attractive to bees, and have, again, virtually no problems. Now, deer will eat these. In my case, I can tell you cows will eat these. I've got it growing on a fence, and the back side has nothing because the cows keep it eaten off. The front side is absolutely gorgeous. But where you're looking for something to hide an ugly fence, or maybe you need some height, good plant to plant. Now, one thing about it, it will freeze to the ground every winter. And they need at least half day of sun, and they bloom best in full sun. But Queen's Crown or Antigonon, if you prefer, just be sure you know what color you're getting, because like I say, the colors range from light to medium pink to a very dark pink to absolutely pure white. There was an older variety too that was pure white that was a very sparse bloomer. The newer whites that are out there now, they bloom as heavily as the pink ones do, and let me tell you, they will have just a lot of flowers. So Queen's Crown is another one that I think everybody should, should have a place for if you have a fence. This is a fun new plant, and there's several varieties of this out. Now, this is what I would call a short-lived perennial, and it may or may not survive a cold winter. Usually, I'm going to say in the garden, probably about 3 years or so is going to be about how long it lives. This is one of several different Cuphea, C-U-P-H-E-A. Come on in, we got plenty of spots up there. No problem. Right there. But C-U-P-H-E-A, this is the variety that they call, I think the name's kind of funny, especially if you look at the flowers, called bat face Cuphea. I don't know, I've looked at a lot of bats in the face, and that doesn't look much like a bat to me. But it is a fun plant, likes a lot of sun, virtually no problems. There are some others now that are a little bit rounder, redder flowers, flamenco rumba, and a whole lot of different ones. But you're looking for something with bright color. Planted mine in my perennial bed last year, and even in the dry year, I don't think I watered more than once a month. And yet they took the drought very well and just gave me a huge number of flowers all summer long. So it is one of the different Cupheas. The other Cupheas that you may be familiar with, there's one called cigar plant. There is a dwarf variety called David Verity that only gets about 2 feet. Then the standard cigar plant, if you saw the ones we have planted on the far side of the parking lot, if you see them in the fall months, they'll be, shoulder high or more and literally have 1,000 flowers on every one. The flowers are a combination of sort of yellow and orange. I guess somebody thinks that looks like a cigar, but anyway, common name is cigar plant. It's another of the Cupheas. There's also now a sort of a purple and pink form as well. So interesting perennials. Again, understand which variety you're getting. Some of them, like the bat face, bloom virtually all the time. The cigar plants have a few flowers through the summer, but it's late fall before they really start putting on huge numbers of flowers. But when they do. You can't see the foliage on the plant for all the flowers. So it's another very good kufia to know about. And of course, probably the most common is Mexican heather. And whereas most of the kufias like bright sun, Mexican heather is the one that will grow in partial shade. And everybody says, well, what's partial shade or bright shade? My definition is if it's bright enough to cast a shadow. If you can stand out there in that spot or under that tree or whatever, and you can see your shadow on the ground,